Deep in the wild, cold lands of Alaska, a place where the wind cuts like a knife and the ground stays frozen for most of the year, a major discovery has changed everything for a young miner who refuses to give up. In this story, we follow Parker Schnabel, a miner known for his hard work, his stubborn spirit, and his desire to build something far bigger than himself. Far away from the comfort of cities and roads, surrounded by tall mountains, dark forests, and endless fields of snow and ice, Parker pushed himself and his crew into one of the toughest mining seasons they had ever faced. What he found in the frozen ground shocked even the most experienced miners around him. It was a gold vein so rich, so hidden, and so powerful that it could change the future of his entire mining operation. This was not a small discovery. This was a moment that would mark a new chapter in his career and possibly become one of the biggest finds in modern mining history. Parker did not stumble into this treasure by luck. It came after weeks of pain, heavy work, stress, broken machines, long nights, and a battle against the freezing Alaskan weather. The land was rough, the danger was constant, and the pressure on his crew grew day after day. But Parker kept going with a plan that was bold, risky, and unlike anything most miners would ever attempt. He believed that hidden deep under layers of frozen soil and old rock lay a section of untouched gold. Many miners would never dare to dig where he chose to dig. Many would have turned back, said it was too deep, too cold, or too expensive. But Parker believed in the ground beneath his feet. He believed in the signs he had studied. And he believed that if he pushed hard enough, he would find something that would make every hardship worth it. The first step toward this discovery began with a strange and secret plan. Parker used maps, old notes, and private scouting missions that he kept quiet from the rest of the mining world. Only a small group of trusted workers knew about the plan. They were handpicked, told to keep silent, and placed under strict rules. Nothing could be leaked. No information could leave the mine. Parker knew that if anyone else caught wind of what he suspected, someone might try to swoop in and take the opportunity away from him. That is how serious and risky this entire operation was. Every move mattered. Every day mattered. Every piece of information mattered. This mission did not begin with fortune. In fact, it began with loss, expenses, and doubt. Parker divided his workers into two crews. This move shocked many people in the mining world because it had never been done like this. One crew, known as the Wolf Cut crew, had the hard job of digging into untouched frozen ground. They were not expected to find gold right away. Their job was slow, tough, and cold. They had to break through 30 feet of frozen permafrost. The ground was so hard that machines struggled, broke down, and slowed to a crawl. The workers had to use heat, heavy tools, and all their strength just to move a few feet forward. Weeks passed with nothing to show for it except piles of frozen mud and ice. Many crew members began to question if the plan would even work. They wondered if Parker had led them into a mistake too big to fix. At the same time, the second crew, called the Drift Cut crew, had a totally different mission. Their job was to find gold right away. They needed to bring money into the operation to keep everything running. They needed to fund the fuel, the machines, the repairs, the food, and even the wages. Every day without gold was a dangerous blow to the operation. If they failed, the whole season could collapse. So they moved fast, searching for deposits that would give them at least enough gold to keep the lights on and keep the hope alive. They searched every corner of the claim and pushed their machines to the limit. Running two crews at the same time was expensive. Machines burned through diesel faster than water. Each bulldozer and excavator needed constant repairs. Every broken part cost money. Every hour of no gold meant more pressure. The costs were rising like a wildfire. Parker knew he was on a thin line between success and disaster. But still, he refused to stop. He knew that somewhere beneath all that frozen ground was the gold he had been searching for. Then, after endless hours of painful work, something changed. The wolf-cut crew finally broke through the last layer of frozen earth. The ground beneath looked different. It felt different. When the dirt reached the sluice box, the workers stared in shock. It was not small gold flakes. It was not little pieces. It was a strong, heavy, constant stream of gold. The box came alive. Parker's risky bet had finally paid off. This long-term crew had found a pay zone rich enough to support mining for years. They had found something that would become one of the most important discoveries in Parker's life. But the surprises did not end there. At almost the same time, the drift-cut crew made their own giant discovery. They found a rich pocket of gold big enough to fuel the entire mining season. After weeks of pressure and fear, they finally held gold that proved their hard work was not in vain. Both teams hit gold at the same time. One crew secured the present, the other secured the future. Parker's gamble had exploded into success in a way nobody expected. But this success came with a new problem. Because now, the amount of gold-bearing dirt being pulled from the ground was too much for the old wash plant to handle. That plant had been running for years, and it couldn't keep up anymore. It broke down constantly. It spilled gold. It slowed down everything. Parker knew that to move forward, he needed something stronger, bigger, and newer. He needed what the crew called Mighty Big Red. Mighty Big Red was no ordinary wash plant. It was a huge, powerful machine worth millions. It could process massive amounts of dirt every hour. But building it took time. It took effort. And it took the crew away from active mining. Every hour spent assembling the new plant was an hour with no gold being recovered. The pressure was heavy again. But they pushed through. They knew that once Big Red was running, it would change everything. While Big Red was being assembled, news spread across the mining area. People began whispering about Parker's discovery. Rivals and strangers grew curious. Some jealous miners wished to know what was happening behind the scenes. Some were even suspected of planning to sneak into the area. To protect his claim, Parker locked down the entire site. He closed roads. He blocked access points. He created a secure area around his mining zone. Nobody could come in or out without permission. This caused many rumors. People started asking questions. What was Parker hiding? How big was the discovery? How much gold had he found? Inside the camp, the real challenges were just beginning. When Big Red finally started running, the first gold cleanup was confusing. The scales were showing strange numbers. The team realized they were using the wrong kind of ounces. Gold is measured in troy ounces, not regular ounces. Once the mistake was fixed, they saw the truth. The cleanup was worth over $23,000. It was a great start. But right when excitement began to rise, Big Red broke down. A screen ripped open, and large rocks clogged the system. Everything stopped. Machines fell silent. The crew looked worried. If Big Red failed, the whole season could fall apart again. So Mitch, the crew's trusted mechanic, climbed inside the huge metal plant. The space was tight, dark, and dangerous. He had to weld the broken screen back together piece by piece. It was slow and tense work. Everyone held their breath until he finished. When he finally stepped out, dirty and tired, he said the words everyone needed to hear. The plant was fixed. And then the gold began to flow once more. The first cleanup after the repair was huge, over 51 ounces of gold. That alone was worth close to $90,000. But this was only the beginning. The other wash plant, known as the sluicer, delivered a cleanup that shocked everyone. When the final gold was weighed, it reached over 360 ounces. That was more than 22 pounds of gold.
nearly $600,000 in one single cleanup. Miners who had been working their whole lives stopped and stared. They had never seen anything like it. Some could not even speak.
Moment would go down in mining history. As the season continued, everything reached a new peak. The ground they were working on was so rich that in one unforgettable day, the crew pulled in more than 253 ounces. In today's gold price, that is more than $800,000 from a single day of mining. It felt unreal, but it was real. It was the result of countless hours of digging, shoveling, repairing machines, fighting the cold, finding the right ground, and never giving up. Parker knew that none of this would have been possible without his crew. They had stood by him through every hard moment, so he did something special to honor them. He gathered all the workers together and gave each one a bonus, but not money. He gave them raw gold from the ground they had uncovered together. Each worker held gold in their hand, gold they had fought for, gold they had earned. It was a powerful, emotional moment. But the truth behind this discovery was not just about luck or chance. It was science. Parker had discovered an ancient riverbed, a pay streak where gold had settled over millions of years. As glaciers melted, the heavy gold particles sank into deep layers. Over time, the river dried up, leaving behind a hidden trail of gold. Parker, using careful research and geological understanding, figured out where the old river once flowed. He followed the clues, and he found the treasure at the bottom of it. But even with this huge discovery, rumors outside the mine continued to grow. Some people wondered if the gold seen on TV was real. Some whispered about planted gold. But when you think about the cost and the weight of real gold, these rumors make no sense. It would be impossible to plant hundreds of ounces of gold without anyone knowing. It would cost too much, and too many people handled the pay dirt. There was no way anyone could hide such a huge secret. The work was real. The effort was real. The gold was real. Mining is not easy. The show may highlight the exciting parts, but the reality is thousands of hours of hard work, stress, and strain. Parker did not simply get lucky. He earned every ounce through years of learning, failing, trying again, and pushing his limits. He built his success from the ground up, just like his grandfather before him. And now, with this new massive gold streak, he stands at the edge of something even bigger. Whether this discovery can ever be repeated is the big question. Was it a once-in-a-lifetime hit? Or can science and determination bring another giant find in the future? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear. Parker Schnabel has proven that even in the harshest lands of Alaska, giant fortunes still sleep beneath the frozen ground. And for those brave enough to dig deep and never give up, the earth still holds incredible treasures waiting to be uncovered. Inside the ground they walked on. But with great reward also came new fear, because the richer the claim became, the more danger grew around it. Danger not only from nature and machines, but from outsiders who heard rumors of the strike. And in the mining world, rumors spread faster than wildfire. Parker knew this better than anyone. Gold can attract attention from people who see a fortune waiting to be taken. So he pushed even harder to make the mining site stronger and safer. More lights were added around the claim so the crew could see every corner at night. Extra cameras were set up to watch the gates and the machinery. Parker also brought in heavy steel containers to store the gold until it could be smelted and shipped. Nothing was left to chance. He remembered stories from old miners who lost entire piles of gold simply because someone sneaked into their claim. He would not let that happen here, not after everything the crew had fought for. Inside the camp, the crew was adjusting to a new rhythm. The days were still long and draining, but now they had proof that their work mattered. Yet the challenges kept growing. Machines began breaking more often because they were running non-stop. Excavators needed new teeth. Bulldozers needed new tracks. Hydraulics leaked. Belts snapped. Engines overheated. It felt like every hour something else needed a repair. The more gold they found, the more they had to push the machines, and the harder the machines pushed back. Mitch and the mechanical team became the backbone of the operation. Without them, everything would stop. They worked almost as many hours as the excavator operators. Sometimes they stayed up all night welding, fixing hoses, or rebuilding engines. You could see the exhaustion in their faces, but you could also see pride. Every time they repaired something and watched it come back to life, they knew they helped push the team one step closer to another huge cleanup. They were not just fixing machines, they were keeping the dream alive. Even with the new wash plant running at full power, the ground continued to surprise the crew. Some days the pay dirt looked normal, with nothing obvious about it. But the moment it entered the sluice, the gold appeared in heavy streaks that shone bright under the running water. Other days, the dirt looked rich from the start, full of quartz and old river stone. The crew began learning how to recognize signs of ancient riverbeds. Parker explained to them how millions of years ago, water once flowed through these lands, carrying gold down from the mountains. When the water slowed or changed direction, the gold settled at the bottom, trapped in cracks, behind big rocks, or under layers of gravel. The crew slowly became better at reading the ground like a book. But not every part of the mine brought good news. Some test digs showed nothing. Some trenches produced almost no gold, and some areas were too hard, too frozen, or too risky to dig. These empty zones reminded everyone that mining is never a guarantee. The same ground that held huge riches one day could be empty the next. This kept the crew from becoming too comfortable. It also kept Parker on edge because he needed every part of the mine to work smoothly. A single bad decision could set them back for weeks. One day, the crew hit a layer of strange clay-like material that clogged the wash plant and made everything slow down. The material was sticky, heavy, and hard to process. It caused rocks to bunch together and blocked the screens again and again. Parker had to make a choice: keep fighting the clay and risk shutting down the plant, or move to a different zone and lose precious time. After a long discussion with the crew, he made the call to shift to a nearby area that looked more promising. That choice saved the day. The new ground started producing gold again and brought relief to everyone. As the season went on, the weather began to change. The nights became colder, the mornings were covered in frost, the sunlight grew shorter, and the danger of frozen equipment became real again. Alaska never gave the miners any breaks. If the ground froze too deep, the season would end early. If snowstorms arrived too soon, everything would slow down. So Parker pushed the teams harder. He wanted them to harvest every ounce of gold before winter shut the door on the operation. Even with the pressure rising, Parker continued studying the land. He walked the claim almost every morning, looking at the shape of the hills, the direction of the ancient riverbeds, and the patterns in the gravel. To him, the ground told a story. He believed the motherlode, the richest section of all, was still ahead, and he was determined to find it before the season ended. The crew noticed his focus. They knew when Parker had that look in his eyes, something big was coming. It reminded them of past seasons when he pushed through impossible odds and found something nobody expected. Many of the older crew members joked that Parker had a gold sense.
in instinct for knowing where the best deposits were buried. But Parker knew it wasn't magic. It was years of listening, watching, learning, and understanding how gold moves through the earth. One evening, after a long day of mining, Parker gathered the crew around a table. The sun had set, and the cold wind blew across camp. Everyone expected a serious talk about fuel or machine repairs, but instead, Parker shared something personal. He talked about his grandfather, who taught him how to mine, how to trust his gut, and how to keep going even when everything seemed lost. Parker explained that finding this massive gold vein was not just about money, it was about honoring the people who taught him everything. His grandfather's lessons lived in every decision he made. The crew listened quietly. It became one of the rare moments when everyone saw Parker not just as a boss, but as a young man carrying the weight of a legacy on his shoulders. After that night, the crew felt a stronger bond. They pushed harder, worked smarter, and supported one another through every challenge. They were no longer just co-workers. They were a team shaped by the gold beneath their feet and the hardships they faced together. But the season still had surprises waiting. One day, while digging deeper into a new cut, the excavator bucket hit something solid. The operator expected a rock, but when he scooped it out and dumped it into the bed, they saw something unusual. The dirt around the rock was full of old, blackened gravel with heavy sand mixed in. Parker rushed over and took one look at it. His eyes widened. He recognized the texture. It was ancient pay dirt, untouched for thousands of years. The crew had stumbled onto a deeper part of the riverbed, a part that could hold even richer gold. With new energy, the crew widened the trench and sent the dirt straight to the plant. When the cleanup came, the results were unbelievable. Gold poured out of the mats in thick lines. The pan overflowed with bright, heavy flakes and small nuggets. The weight was almost double what they expected. The crew cheered. Some laughed in disbelief. Others just stared, trying to understand how much wealth was hidden in that small area of land. The discovery meant the season was far from over. As long as the ground stayed soft and the machines kept running, the crew would keep chasing the treasure locked inside the earth. Every cleanup brought more excitement. Each day brought new hope. And Parker felt something he had not felt in years. The belief that he might be standing on the richest ground he had ever worked. But the story does not end there. The deeper they dug, the more that ancient riverbed revealed its secrets. And with every new layer came new questions. Was this just the beginning? Was there an even larger streak waiting ahead? And how long could they keep pushing before winter forced them to leave? More challenges were coming, more dangers, more decisions that could change everything again.
Pushed past its limits, and from outsiders drawn by rumors of a major strike. And in the mining world, rumors traveled faster than wildfire. Parker knew that better than anyone. Gold didn't just attract miners, it attracted trouble. So he tightened security around the entire operation. He ordered more lights installed so the crew could see every corner of the claim at night. Additional cameras were set up along the gates and around the machines. Heavy steel containers were brought in to store gold until it could be smelted and shipped. Nothing was left to chance. Parker had heard too many stories of old-time miners who lost entire piles of gold because someone snuck into their claims. He refused to let history repeat itself, not after everything his crew had endured. Inside the camp, the rhythm of daily work shifted. The days were still long and exhausting, but now everyone could feel the payoff getting closer. Yet the challenges grew just as fast as the excitement. Machines were pushed harder than ever. Excavators needed new teeth. Bulldozers needed fresh tracks. Hydraulics leaked. Belts snapped. Engines overheated. It seemed like something broke every hour. The more gold they mined, the more the machines fought back. Mitch and the mechanical team became the heartbeat of the entire operation. Without them, the mine would grind to a halt. They worked nearly as many hours as the excavator operators, often staying up all night welding,
replacing hoses or rebuilding engines. Exhaustion was written across their faces, but so was pride. Every time a repaired machine roared back to life, they knew they'd kept the dream alive. Even with the wash plant running full throttle, the ground continued to surprise them. Some days the dirt looked average, yet it lit up with gold the moment it hit the sluice. Other days the pay dirt was obviously rich, full of quartz and ancient river rock. The crew slowly grew better at reading the ground like seasoned prospectors, but mining is never predictable. Some test pits came up empty. Some trenches produced almost nothing. Some zones were too frozen or too dangerous to dig. These setbacks were constant reminders that even the richest ground had its limits. Then came the clay. A thick, sticky material began clogging the wash plant. Rocks bunched up, screens plugged, and everything slowed to a crawl. Parker had a tough decision to make. Fight the clay and risk shutting everything down, or move to a new area and lose valuable time. After talking it through with the crew, he chose to shift to a nearby zone that looked more promising. It was the right call. Gold returned to the sluice almost immediately, and the whole crew breathed easier. As the season pushed forward, Alaska reminded them who was in charge. Nights grew colder, mornings frost-covered, daylight shortened. If the ground froze too deep, the season would end early. If the snow arrived too soon, their progress could be wiped out. Parker pushed harder than ever. He walked the claim every morning, studying the land, the hills, the gravel, the direction of old water flow. He believed the motherlode was still waiting somewhere ahead, and he was determined to find it before winter slammed the door. The crew could see it.
His eyes. Parker had that look again, the same intensity he'd shown in past seasons when he overcame impossible odds. Some of the